Welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a pop culture podcast about animation, TV, movies, comics, and more. This episode, we're going to give our reactions, thoughts, and predictions on some upcoming projects we're excited to see from James Gunn's new DC Universe, which is about to get underway. I'm Clifton.
I'm Frank Melman.
And I'm Zach Slater.
All right, upcoming DC Universe. We've got a little bit has started so far, not a whole lot. What's out of the gate, I think, is basically Creature Commandos and Peacemaker Season 1 and maybe Blue Beetle, kind of. Maybe.
Sorta, maybe.
But we do know we've got more coming up this year. So we've got the first one we're going to be talking about. Isn't the first one in order, but it is. We got a trailer for it, and that is Peacemaker Season 2,
Yes.
which is coming to us on August 21st, 2025 on HBO Max.
Sure.
I think only HBO Max now, not Max.
For now.
For now.
Say Max 2 just in case it switches back.
Mhm.
just in case I need to edit it.
Yes.
Reprising the role of Christopher Smith, a jingoistic mercenary who believes in achieving peace at any cost, is John Cena. Also being joined again by Danielle Brooks playing Leota Adebayo, the daughter of Argus director Amanda Waller, which we learn in season 1, spoiler. Also Freddie Stroma as Adrian Chase, Vigilante, Jennifer Holland as Amelia Harcourt, and Steve Agee as John Economos.
Yes.
Both of them are Argus operatives.
What'd you think of Peacemaker, Frank? Do you really want to taste it?
Sure. Yes. Sure. Why not? Yeah. I was surprised in the trailer by what we got.
Yeah.
Like that basis on. We'll spoil season 1 of Peacemaker by talking about, because at the end of it, in the end of season 1 of Peacemaker, it looks like we're fairly entrenched in one particular universe.
Right.
But now it seems like we're not.
Things changed between season 1 and 2.
I guess you could argue that the Flash movie does that. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's how they're making it work. I don't know. There's not been any any firm.
Forgot about that.
As you should.
Right.
I'm guessing that's where it changed. So no, it seems like we're getting some kind of version. I mean, we've seen them. We'll talk about more when we get to the Superman trailer. But some version of the Justice League?
Yes.
Question mark?
So season 1 ended with
Mm,
post-credits, surprise, Justice League appearance.
right.
And then season 2 trailer appears to be a different Justice League
Yes.
for a different time.
Yes. Yeah. We got Zack Snyder's Justice League at the end of season 1. Again, a spoiler. And then in this one, it seems like we're getting I'm guessing it's a Max Lord back to Justice League.
Maybe.
Looks that way.
Again, question mark.
Right.
I mean, we if you don't know already, James Gunn's brother, Sean Gunn.
Yep.
Who has been in a lot of his brother's stuff.
And Gilmore Girls.
And Gilmore Girls, let's not forget that, is playing Maxwell Lord. You've also got Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern. And then
Isabella Merced.
thank you. Who's of Last of Us and other things recently as Hawkgirl, right? So it's interesting to see that we have them in this trailer for Peacemaker Season 2, but we're not sure when it takes place, right? Because it looks like they're either on a recruitment drive or they're having tryouts.
Right.
And I guess they're just running it by Peacemaker just to see.
So the gag we get is Adebayo dropping off Peacemaker for, I guess, the interview process and telling him that they'll love him.
Right.
And then we get the gag where it's like a recording studio with like the on-off mic for into the studio, and he hears them talking about him when they think the mic is off, which is a funny gag for
it's
the
a good
trailer.
bit. It's a good bit. It works.
Yeah, made me chuckle. It's a good bit.
They're not too enthused
No.
to have him be a part of their Justice League, whichever Justice League we're getting. It's a fun bit.
But no, you're right. That was a surprise. It was a surprise to see them in a trailer for Peacemaker before Superman even comes out for us to see. Although Superman is coming out first.
Yes.
Yeah. But we haven't even seen what their deal is yet.
No idea. No idea if they're on a payroll, if they've banded together for truth and justice, if they're super friends. We don't know. We have no idea what their deal is just yet. I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, if we're going to get some kind of version of Justice League International or the Giffen de Mattis Justice League, by all means, go for it. Although that's not a Justice League that's very heavy on heavy hitters for the most part. Because at the time, they weren't really allowed to use a lot of the bigger names. So they made do with what they could get. So it'll be interesting. I don't know for sure what that means. But it was a good bit. And I guess, I don't know if they're going to be in more of it or not. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just their whole shtick we'll get in that season or not.
Yeah.
I'm betting on that one, Clifton. I'm betting on the latter, that it's probably that bit.
Yeah. It could be. It could be just to differentiate from the season one to be like, yeah, we're not doing that thing anymore. Yeah. So here's where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Maybe a revisiting of that bit again at the end.
Mm-hmm.
After Peacemaker saves the day, I'm sure. And maybe they like him. I don't know.
Maybe.
No, it's a good bit. I like the trailer a lot. I think moving past the Justice League guys, I think, we're looking at the cast kind of things are not going well for any of them, it appears.
Right.
Which is an interesting place to put them in.
Because they were all getting along by the end of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they seem like they're pretty strong in the trailer. It just seems like, I forget her name, the Waller's daughter. Adebayo says, we save the freaking world, right? And again, I feel it's one of those things where I think will be an interesting take, especially in James Gunn thing, is the idea that the world gets saved all the time. And you're not necessarily going to get, it's not going to translate into your life getting better, but even though you save the world, I think that's one of those things that I took from this immediately was, well, you've read superhero comics, you pick up a superhero book, any book in a month of comics coming out, and the world is saved, right? Not everyone's a Justice League. Not everyone's going to get the fame and glory out of it. So I think that's an interesting idea that, well, yeah, you did, and no one noticed. So your life didn't improve.
Yeah, you're still just you.
Right, exactly. And I think for some of them, it's going to be, it looks like it's a really hard place for them to be.
Right.
Or the hard thing for them to take is that things didn't improve or things didn't get better just because they stopped the butterfly people.
So we do have another casting surprise in this one, and that is, again, revealed in the trailer, so we'll talk about it. Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr.
Yes.
The father of Joel Kinnaman, who played Rick Flag in previous Suicide Squad and The Suicide Squad.
Right.
So now we got Frank Grillo jumping from Marvel, where he was Crossbones, to DC now, where he's Rick Flag Sr.
Yes.
And seems to be on the hunt for Peacemaker, knowing that Peacemaker, back in the Suicide Squad,
spoiler,
killed Rick Flag Jr.
Yes.
Yes.
And he Rick Flag Jr., the actor, I liked him a lot. I was unfortunate to see him not be a part of things. But again, it's one of those things where it's weird because of that whole Flashpoint thing of like, well, did that happen in time with everything else or did it not?
Right. What movies, what's making it through the crisis, through the red skies?
Right, well, I mean, we know it happened, but it's one of those things where, again, pick up any random comic, especially now, where, stuff that was canon is suddenly not, I mean, events happen and then red skies or antimatter walls come through, and the next thing you know, characters that were gone are no longer gone. So we don't really know what the full outcome of that's going to be.
Yeah. Or in this case, the person who writes one movie and made some creative decisions later becomes, the architect of an entire cinematic universe.
Right.
So that stuff's going to be safe.
And keeps some of his things, but some of it doesn't mesh because it was initially written to be connected to another universe.
Right.
So that's
comics.
That's where we are.
Sure.
And well, I feel like we'll get to that. I feel like I'm not really talking about the trailer much yet. Okay. So Frank Grillo, I was going to bring up Frank Grillo.
Okay.
Which is neat to see him. He's awesome. He's a great actor. Very, very fun to see it. And we'll get into this also when we start talking about Superman and stuff. So far, he appears to be the through line to the universe to me.
I was gonna say that so far we're keeping it awful tight of who's we're showing, which is not a bad. I'm not. That's not a knock. It's just one of those things where, from a creative standpoint, it is definitely a. He seems to be the lightning rod for a lot of this stuff. Wouldn't you say?
I would, yeah, and I think because he Frank Grillo does voice Rick Flag Sr. in Creature Commandos, the animated miniseries or season 1. I guess season 1. I guess we're getting another season of it. So that was cool. I mean, it's great to see him back. Interesting to see. I think possibly what we are going to be playing off of. Maybe happening in Suicide in Creature Command. Okay, so I'll ask you this. So there was that shot of him like walking when it's clear that the thrust of the story seems to be that Flag is hunting them,
right?
Or hunting Peacemaker specifically. Right. Did Frank Grillo look a little weird?
How so?
Like, does he look ailing?
Could be. That's
what I'm curious. Like there's like a yellow tinge.
I had not noticed
in there, and I didn't know if it's like, is that makeup? Where like he's meant to be on some kind of like experimental serum or something like that, or is it just like the lighting of the scene? You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. It's again, I don't know. Are we spoiling everything? Because I have an answer, but I don't know if you've seen it.
Your guys' call. What do you think? I mean, we probably should. Let's just give the warning here. We're going to spoil Creature Commandos here.
Sure. So we're going to spoil
earmuffs if you haven't seen it.
So we'll spoil Creature Commandos here. There's an epic fight towards the end of Creature Commandos where Flag Sr. gets into a fight with the villain Clayface, and it does not go well for Flag Sr. So maybe that's it. I mean, maybe that's the reason why. There's also someone asked, I remember seeing when I saw the trailers, so I saw it in a thread, someone asked about his hair color.
Yeah.
That was a little off too. It's not the same, it's not quite as gray as it is in Creature Commandos. So I don't know. Not really sure. I do like the fact that we're getting, as we've talked about in other episodes of the podcast, that it bothered me as a kid when you would have an animated feature or an animated project on a Saturday morning show, and the voice actors from the movie, the actors from the movie wouldn't do the voice. So to me, I'm like, that's cool that he's taking the time, James Gunn is, to make sure that, well, if you're available for this, you're going to be available for live action as well.
Right.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
or you could just recast him with Arsenio Hall, like Ghostbusters.
Right. Or Lorenzo Music, somebody that sounds sort of like them.
Both were good choices, though.
They were. I love those voices too. They're just not there's not the original actors, of course. But they had, that's a whole other episode. Anyway, I like the character. I think it's exciting that we're going to have him here as well. But again, I don't know. It's one of those things where, obviously, if you've seen Peacemaker season 1, you've seen the growth of the character, the change in the character. So it's always an interesting thing to see when someone comes back to, like, their sins of the past haunts them, and then someone wants them to pay for what they did, to see how that plays out.
Right. You're the second person I've seen say Rick Flag's hair is gray in Creature Commandos.
Right.
And it's really making me think I'm quite colorblind.
Okay.
Because it looked blonde to me.
Oh, okay.
I thought his hair was blonde, which was a head scratcher thing to me too, because I'm just like, because, I've seen a bunch of Frank Grillo movies. I know what he looks like, and I knew he was going to be playing him in live action. I'm like, why didn't you just make his hair black?
Yeah.
Like that's a puzzling one where I'm like, that's so in your control.
Right.
The design of that. And I'm just like, okay. So that's another okay. It's connected, but why the change?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be a storytelling thing. We just don't know.
Yeah.
There could be an actual reason in the actual episode. We just don't know. So, have to wait.
What'd you think, Clifton?
And I liked season 1 a lot. Season 2, I'm looking forward to. It was a little jarring to see the Superman side characters already in it. That was just a little jarring to me. But, I mean, the characters are always fun. I'm interested to see where it goes. Vigilante I like, so he's the one we hadn't talked about yet, but Freddie Stroma as Adrian Chase Vigilante was a fun take on the character. He was always kind of like a Punisher ripoff kind of, well, different. I mean, original Vigilante was a cowboy.
Right.
But this Vigilante
Adrian Chase
came in the 80s and was very much chasing Punisher.
Right.
But at DC. So I like Freddie Stroma's kind of like innocent psychotic. Like,
yeah.
I don't know exactly how to describe him, but I liked it in season 1. I'm looking forward to it in season 2. The Rick Flag stuff, I mean, I don't know a whole lot. I mean, I knew Rick Flag in Suicide Squad, that Rick Flag. So I don't know much other stories from the comics with Rick Flag, though. So we'll see. We'll see where that's going. But I did like Rick Flag Jr.
Yes.
His line back in the Suicide Squad, which they replayed a bunch in Peacemaker season 1 of Joel Kinnaman's reading for like Peacemaker, what a joke, was such a good line read. Yeah. So I like that haunted the character through Peacemaker season 1 because it was a great reading, a great delivery.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tamper my expectations a little bit. Not that I'm not expecting good things, but I think the first season was a little bit of a surprise, like how good it was.
Yeah.
And that you took this character that, like did steal scenes in Suicide Squad. And it was like, wow, like Cena is actually like really, really good in this take of this character. And it's like, oh, they're making a show for him. Okay, that's interesting. And it's like, wow, okay, it's really strong. And what a surprise. And now it's kind of one of those things where it's like we're expecting it now. Like we see it coming a little bit. So
you're like, what's the dance number going to be in the opening credits?
Exactly, right.
You're leaning into it. Overall, like what you were describing is pretty much like my reaction to Peacemaker, yes. Also my reaction to Penguin for the Penguin show is a similar trajectory of like, the character's fine. Like, character's fine in the movie. Oh, they're making a show. Okay. Oh, but the show's good. Like, I didn't think I wanted it, but like, here I am and I'm watching it. But that was me in Peacemaker season 1 as well. But it is different knowing where to lean, I guess, this time. And having seen enough James Gunn stuff that it's hard for James Gunn to surprise. I think just because, I mean, his voice is unique to him, but he's been doing it a while. So if you've seen a lot of his stuff, like you recognize the voice, which is funny because I watched Super with Elliot Page and Rainn Wilson. I watched Super after I saw Peacemaker season 1. I had not seen Super before. I was just like, it's a James Gunn thing I haven't seen. I'll watch it. It opens with like basically a storyboard. Like the opening credits is the characters drawn with crayons doing a dance. And it's basically the Peacemaker opening, but in a storyboard, like crayon storyboard form. So it's like way back, 12 years ago, he wanted to do it. And like the closest he could come was this crayon drawing version of it. Until Peacemaker, and then did it. So I like James Gunn a lot, but he gets married to ideas and will reuse them. So it does become harder for him to surprise every time he's coming out.
I think a little bit too about how Suicide Squad and Peacemaker both had kind of like a secret alien threat.
And Slither.
Right. Okay.
They all have the same Act 3.
Yeah, right. And not bemoaning it, like I liked it in
no, they're good stuff.
And I liked it in those 2 that I saw. But I do get what you're saying, and it's his voice has become also, I think we've said in other shows too, where it's like his voice has become like so distinct. That you kind of have a sense of tone and you have a sense of flavor. Now going into these things. That said, what I do think he did, as far as DC stuff goes, like Peacemaker's my favorite thing. That he's done so far, and I think that did a great job about making me care about characters that I had literally no attachment to before it at all. None. Like absolutely none. And now it's kind of turned into like I like Peacemaker, and I get excited like when I see him in comics, and when I see like they're talking about like putting him in other things. It's kind of funny that like Cena who I'm a fan of from his wrestling days, is like, it did kind of have like a mini Robert Downey Iron Man thing with this character, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never read a Peacemaker comic in my life, so I can't tell you what the character was like before Cena played him. Right. But it appears to be every iteration of the character after the fact.
Yeah, not so much laughs. It was not so much a fun character. Some of it was there, but not a lot.
But Gunn can still bring heart.
Oh yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
And so he can still surprise in that ways, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, like all of the rocket stuff. So he can definitely bring heart still and surprise in those ways. It just gets harder. I think it just gets harder for him.
It does, yeah. And Creature Commandos had some strong moments too of that. Yeah. Of what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, like really, really, really strong moments though. So I'm jazzed for it.
Oh yeah.
I'm with you. I wasn't quite expecting the Justice League in it and everything, but I do think, it's ground floor for the shared universe. And I think that he's trying to build a habit in people to kind of be like, this thing talks to this thing, who may not know yet. And I think, I think they're trying to be overt with it to know, so people know. Because the universe is already a little confusing, like you said, because the previous Justice League is in the end of the first season.
Right.
And there are, in continuity for people who care about it, is a little still, even with only like one project in, everybody's still like kind of scratching their heads like, wait a minute, huh?
Right.
Like,
Oh yeah.
That's a, I mean, and he knows that, and that was something that he knew he was going to have to overcome, and we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, I think that it's motivated very much by that.
Yeah, they're going into the headwinds on, we used to be separate. Our TV and our movies used to be different things, and now they're one thing. That was when this all was announced, like, or when Superman was announced and the other projects were announced. That was end of January 2023 was when that stuff was first announced. And that was his, like, in his YouTube video presentation, that's what it was all about. Like, that's the first thing he said, was that our movies were distinct from our shows, and now we're changing that.
Right.
And now we're 3 years later, 3+ years later, or 2+ years later. I can't tell time. But now we're years later. And I think it's funny. They're still going like into those headwinds at a time when reportedly Marvel's dialing back from that.
Right.
Like, we might have gone too far.
Right.
Yes.
At least some industry reports out there have that thinking or that sentiment being put forth. So I think it is an interesting time to see how DC's like trying to go barrel into it themselves now, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah. The release schedule is what matters. If anybody cares what I think. That's what I think. It's not so much that movies and TV can't talk, it doesn't work, or it does work.
You hear that, studio heads?
It's I mean, let's not focus on the wrong thing here.
Right.
I think it's like, it can work. What the issue I think is that the release schedule can be kind of unrelenting.
Mm-hmm.
And tough to keep up on, because a show can take more time to get through than a movie. And so as long as I think you give a little bit of space in between, right? And give us a chance to fill the well again and get excited again. I think that will make all the difference. Zach's 2 cents.
Any final thoughts on?
Just the last bit.
Mm-hmm.
This last bit of being, I guess, in his dad's warehouse.
Oh yeah. There was one final reveal in the trailer.
Yeah, that one is that's kind of a big deal. Again, as you're talking about Marvel trying to scale stuff back because maybe they went a little too far with their multiverse plans.
Mm.
It seems like we are getting some kind of multiversal tease.
Or something.
Yeah. Or something.
There is another Peacemaker.
Yes.
In the warehouse that Peacemaker goes into.
Yes.
Yes.
Someone enters the door and finds another Peacemaker who may or may not be, a more successful Peacemaker. We just don't know.
Right.
Possibly.
There's a heel Peacemaker and a babyface Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
It appears.
Yes. Which is interesting, because I thought...
It is interesting. It is also interesting with where John Cena is in his wrestling career and what's happening now. Also, at the moment. Very interesting. But anyway.
But just the thought of, I at least assumed that the doorway, all the stuff there was like storage. Like I didn't think it was doorways to another dimension or another universe, but apparently there is some sort of. So that, I'm curious about that. How big a deal that is. It may just be a throwaway bit, it may not.
We will find out when it starts running, August 21st, 2025.
I'll bring this up too really quick. We don't need to spend a ton of time on it because the I could be reading too much into it, but I'm looking at Hawkgirl in the beginning, and I'm wondering, I'm like, does she have wings? Right?
I believe she does.
And again, like it's tough to see. Like maybe it's there and I'm not seeing it because it's kind of dark and like and there's a glare on the screen or something. But it did make me go, is this like are these Thanagarians who take the wings off?
Right.
Which is, there's precedent for that in the comics because there are versions of the Hawks that it's the wings are not organic. They are pieces of the armor. Right. And stuff like that. Or it could also have just been that like those wings are going to be CGI and the CGI is not done and they just didn't put it in the trailer. And it's dark and maybe they thought people weren't going to know. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it could very well just be that.
Yeah, I thought it was addressed, but I don't know for certain, so I don't want to say. I can't remember if it was an actual plot point or whether it was just one of those things where we'll see them as needed. So
I'm just pointing that out. I don't know if you guys had noticed or
no,
had
it's
an opinion.
True. Definitely,
I had not noticed.
Okay. My opinion, my hope is that they're real wings. I like the Thanagarians to have real wings.
Right.
Yes.
Probably because that's the way it was in the Justice League cartoon.
Right. Well, going back to that, you also thought that her mask was her face.
Her face.
I did. I thought that, right. I thought that for the longest time in the show because you never saw them out of costume.
Right.
So I thought that was Hawkgirl's face.
She just had a beak.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wait, no, that's a helmet. Yeah, I'm embarrassed.
She looked like Brack from Space Ghost, yes.
I'm embarrassed to say that, but yeah, no, that's 1,000,000% true. But no, but what the reason I like the wings being organic is that it does give them as an alien race sort of like a differentiation, a hook, something that's like that says alien,
No, that makes sense.
Which I think is cool. But yeah.
Are we ready to move on to the big one?
Yes, sir.
Coming at us on July 11th, 2025.
Can't get her soon enough.
Is Superman. Written and directed by James Gunn.
Yes.
Preceding his Peacemaker season. Starring David Corenswet as Clark Kent Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and also appearances by Nathan Fillion, who we've mentioned already, Isabella Merced, who we've mentioned already. I think Skylar Gisondo is Jimmy Olsen in this one. I like him. He was in the video game The Quarry, which is very good.
Yep, I'm a fan.
This one was first announced as Superman Legacy, was what they told us the title would be back in that announcement back in January of 2023.
Yeah.
So some things have changed. They simplified it. They just called it Superman.
Yeah. Good change, I think.
Yeah. Streamline it.
Yeah.
Make it sound like it's not a prequel or a sequel to something else.
Exactly. No, I agree. I think very, very good call to just like, no, it's Superman.
Right.
Yep. It's its own thing.
Yeah. And on that note, really quick, sorry, before we get into it, what I will say about the slate that we did a review on when it came out in 23, you said, Clifton, right?
Yep.
What I do think is interesting, because we mentioned on that show too, like this slate like very easily can change. Right? I just want to say, that I appreciate James Gunn's relationship with the fans and how open he is to the changes and things like that. Like on social media, like things that he's like, he'll announce like this movie's not happening or this movie's changing or this is changing and everything. And I just like really, really appreciate just how forward and open he is about this stuff. And I think like he's really utilizing social media in a really, really smart way. And I think a lot of studios overthink sort of like, we need a big press release to say this or say, you know what I mean? And I just sort of like, I'm just saying I want to appreciate the fact that he has built up enough fan capital that like that works and is effective, and we are hanging on his every word, you know, and I do think that, and it does make for cool moments. So I just want to say that, you know, just as we were talking about, like, you know, a quick change was the title, you know,
and also going back to that episode we did when they announced all this stuff, their original slate. Not only did I think we pointed out, like, it's subject to change. I called it vaporware at the time because I was like, there's no guarantee any of this is happening at that point in time years ago. And then I've been pleasantly surprised. It seems to, you know, for the most part, still be happening. Like Zach's talked about, there's been changes. They've addressed the changes, but like we're still getting, I mean, so far those projects back then that were announced as that thing are still either like really on the horizon or in development and soon on the horizon. So I will have to correct myself on the vaporware comment from the time. At the time, it was, you know, a possibility.
It's a fair take. Don't apologize. It's a fair take. I mean, my biggest thing is like going with what Zach was just saying. I like the fact when he's like, listen, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
We gotta move stuff. It happens. Yeah. I think that's perfectly okay to say to a fandom or to people, listen, this is what we thought, this is what we had planned, we're changing our plan.
Sure.
That's perfectly okay. Especially when you're trying to put out quality work. And like, I don't assume for a moment that he's trying to give us junk.
Exactly.
In any of the projects he's working on.
No, I'm with you too.
And I think he understands, and then I use this word in its appropriate termage, the awesome responsibility that he has upon his shoulders of not having this stuff suck.
And I think the way that he does it and how open he is with the fans, hopefully, I know it does with the three of us and like-minded fans like us, but it does allow for us to give him some grace, you know, on things. Things are going to change, and that's okay. And I will also just say one last note on it too, that like his interaction with the fans appears to be quite genuine.
Yeah,
too, which I think is an important thing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that do this fan interaction thing, and it can feel like it's a chore for them, and it does not appear that way for a second.
No, I mean, again, as much as he's got to deal with, as much stuff he's trying to make work, all the stuff that I've seen him answer, even when people try to come at him, he's just kind of like, look, this is how it is.
Yeah,
and it's not. He's never like, I've not seen him swing back on anybody in any situation so far. But like where it's been like, will you just stop hounding me about this dumb stuff and let me work? Let me cook, as they say. Which is, you know, is great. You know, there's no reason why you can't. I mean, you know, Marvel might have been in a better spot right now if they just leveled and said, COVID messed us up, and our main villain, we didn't expect things to happen in reality for him.
Right.
We're doing the best that we can.
Right.
So kudos to James Gunn for trying to get ahead of stuff and saying, look, we're not there yet on some of it. The script's not right, or it's not, the shooting schedule's not right, or we don't have the story. So it's okay. Anyway, back to the trailer.
That was our side.
Yes.
But back to the next one on the horizon, Superman.
Yes.
Just plain good old Superman.
Yeah. Superman.
Starring David Cornsweet. So in this, we'd seen a teaser before. We briefly mentioned the teaser back in like our first of the year, end of the year episode. What, I'll ask you, is the thing you're most excited for? Like, what was the thing in the trailer that popped out that's the most exciting to you?
It's gonna sound like I'm being snarky, but I promise I'm not.
Okay.
Superman.
Okay.
Honestly, like I'm. What gets me about the take in the trailers is I'm just like, okay, Gunn and I see Superman the same way. Right? And it's like so important for my enjoyment of the character, I think. Like that Superman is a nice guy, that Superman is trying to be good, Superman is like, all he's trying to do is help.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And that appears to be the take we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that he's just a nice guy from the Midwest.
Right.
With awesome powers.
Right.
And so I'm very, very excited for the take. I'm excited for the actor playing him, who I think is really going to knock it out of the park, I think. I mean, this trailer like really gave me the teaser was a lot of like splash,
Mm-hmm.
like shots, like cool shots. And this was a moment, and this trailer had a little bit more like performance bent on it, like actor take on the character. And I'm seeing an interview sequence with him and Lois, and I'm just like, oh, I think he's gonna nail it. I think he's gonna nail Clark. I think he's gonna nail Superman. I think he's gonna nail the relationship with Lois. I think he's gonna nail the relationship with his parents. I'm, treading on a lot of things in the trailer, but that's the thing. Truly, that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most in a trailer that has a lot of things I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
Right. What about you? The thing that jumped out as the most exciting thing in the trailer.
The Lois and Clark Superman dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with Tommy about this, and I said, for me, it's one of those things where I think we're going to get various stages of Superman's life in this movie.
Right.
Like, just from what we've seen. I won't go too far into it because I'll go off on a tangent. But just the opening bit of her doing the interview, and he's like, "Bring it, come on, bring it."
Right.
And they're the whole Cronkite reference is nice. Gives you a sense of like, okay, so he's because a lot of times he's a reporter, and he's like, but is he though? You're telling me is, but it was a nice nod to a really important reporter from the 60s and 70s when I was growing up, not the 60s but the 70s, knowing about news. That was the guy, right?
Yep.
But that whole thing, that interplay between them, revealed like a ton of character, and the fact that it's she gets him, but she also is not afraid to challenge him, which is great. Like Zach was saying, I like the humanity that comes out in that little bit of stuff that we saw. The idea that she's being honest with him in a way that is going to make him be like, but I was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And she knows full well that, she's got that, I don't want to call it, not that cynicism, but she just knows people, right? That's one of her skills. She just knows people, and that people will see it as, you're probably interfering in a place you shouldn't interfere, whether you're doing the right thing or not. There's going to be people that are going to push back on that, right? But I love that bit a lot. I thought that whole scene between the two of them was great.
He even says like Miss Lane perfectly.
Yes.
Right? Like, weird thing to fixate on.
But you're not wrong.
No, and it's like, and I hope that's the take that we get, because sometimes trailers can give you a different take of things. See Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You're a teacher. Moment, right? Watch the trailer and watch the movie. You'll see what I'm talking about. But it's like, but the way he says Miss Lane in that dynamic of I'm just like, that's what Superman sounds like.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm very excited. Like you said, I'm very excited for how he's going to play the duality of it. I'm very excited by the fact that she's, she seems to be who she's supposed to be.
And we've seen two weaknesses now, too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. The first teaser opens up with a bloody Superman.
Right.
Saying to the audience, this is a Superman that can get hurt. I think a brilliant way to start the first trailer.
Yeah.
Right? For all the people to like, he's too powerful and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
That stuff. But now we see another weakness in a way that's, you can get under his skin.
Yeah.
As bulletproof as that skin may be,
right,
he's sensitive to things.
Sure.
And I like kind of the boiling point that he hits as she's challenging him.
Yeah.
Yeah. My question about that scene is I wonder, is that scene one scene in the movie, or is that scene sort of like a frame narrative for the film? And what I mean by that is like, is the movie flashbacks of the things they refer to in that interview for 2/3 of the movie until the plot catches up with the current events.
You could be right.
Haven't read that anywhere.
No.
That's my own feeling watching the trailer. I was like, I wonder if that's what we're getting.
I honestly think, just from what he said he's looked at in order to get ready for it, to write the script, he mentions For All Seasons, he mentions All-Star Superman, he mentions Birthright. As you know, For All Seasons and All-Star Superman very much are snapshots of a timeline, right?
Yeah.
Especially For All Seasons, because it's spread out over the course of a year. That's where I get the feeling of he has so much that he has to get covered to get us up and running for Superman, that it can't just be the origin of Superman coming to Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking it's going to be a much more of like, Superman's life is super complicated. No pun intended. He's got a million things going on at any given time. And we're going to see all of that in this movie over the course of, I don't know, X amount of days or a year. I don't know. But that's why I feel like it's going to be, we're going to get the classic, she doesn't know. We're going to get the, oh, she definitely knows. We're going to get how they, are together as a couple, and then how that plays out through all of it, I think. But we did get Clifton, what jumped out at you? What was the thing that you were super excited about?
So the thing that most exciting to me is something we talked about earlier in this episode and in going back to the teaser. We talked about James Gunn's voice, his apparent voice that you see in Guardians, Peacemaker, and Super and all the other stuff. Exciting thing to me was the lack of that voice in Superman so far.
Right.
There's pieces, but it's not like the same pieces of his voice that I'm talking about. Like this, I see the heart.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking of the teaser that came out and even and this trailer as well, I compared it to, thought back to other trailers and stuff of his that we've seen and think of the first Guardians of the Galaxy trailer or teaser, the first Guardians of the Galaxy teaser, and how that blew everybody's minds with Hooked on a Feeling. It was the song choice and these, oddball characters and blew everyone away.
Right.
And I was looking at Superman and being like, well, what's that moment? Like, what's that here? And there's not exactly that here. A lot of this doesn't have the gimmicky surprises to me, I think. Like, even the casting. I remember online that David Corenswet was he was the fan favorite Superman casting. I mean, before Pearl came out, which he was in. Like every fan cast site I saw on Reddit and stuff was always like David Corenswet should be the next Superman. And that was before Pearl.
Okay.
And everyone was always like, Miss Maisel should be Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Which is what we got. Like as far as, not in performance, but in actor.
Right.
And so I'm looking at these and thinking like we've got two straight out of Central castings for these people, which isn't very Gunn. Which isn't normal Gunn. Gunn normally likes to subvert your expectations on casting, I would say, most of the time. And so we don't get a lot of the trappings. So I was trying to think like, what is the hook? Like, what is the hook that like the James Gunn kind of like twist on your expectations hook in all of this? And I landed on Crypto as being like, that's the subverting your expectations angle. It's not the same kind of like ironic or kind of snarky angle he goes for sometimes, but it's the heart angle. I feel like. So I mean that's the most exciting thing to me is it's just like he's flexing different muscles. He's flexing muscles muscles we've seen in other stuff, but different ones that we don't always see from him.
It's funny you mentioned that because that was one of the things when it was talked about he was going to be the one writing Superman. A lot of people in on web pages and threads, people were like, well, here's where we see what he can do because this is you can't play quirky. Right. You can. You absolutely can. That's the thing about the character. The character's pretty versatile. That's why he's lasted for, all these years is the fact that he is versatile. You can play him that way. But again, not everyone's going to accept, so many people have their own version of what Superman should be. But I thought it was one of the things where it was a lot of people were concerned because, this is not, Superman's not a misfit generally. I mean, you can show him as being alienated. You can show him as being like, not quite like everybody else. But that's only a portion of a film or a portion of the story, usually. I mean, unless you guys disagree. That's why it's just one of the things where I'm saying compared to other Gunn stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because, we don't really have that kind of hook into Superman.
Right.
I felt that he had this in him. I really did. Tommy and I had a conversation. I don't think on the show we had ever mentioned it or anything, but Tommy and I had a conversation a long time, right? For some reason, there's glimpses of Superman I see when I watch like Guardians 1 and 2. There were aspects of points in those two movies that made me go, I kind of want to see Gunn do Superman.
Yeah.
Like, I think he could nail it.
Mm.
And I mean, I hope this isn't a spoiler for people because it's not a plot point or anything. It's just more of, I think, a feel kind of thing. Okay. Which for me is plays into that crypto stuff you're talking about, Clifton. And I think that's really kind of the hook of it. Is the trailer for me is like feel. Mm-hmm. They both feel like so positive and optimistic.
Right.
And he has come out and just said, like, I think it's a movie that people need right now because it's a movie about kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, I'm all for that. I'm into that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think like what a perfect vehicle to explore that. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm so excited for this. Like the colors, it's so bright.
Yeah.
Like another stupid nitpicky thing, but like, man, they nailed it. Like,
right.
Like they got the color blue right.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, no, yeah.
On his suit, they got the red right. It's just like, it's not dank. It's not, you know, I'm not throwing shade. It's just like, but I think we got a lot of people who took their swings at the character. And I think their impulse was to dilute a little bit the visual.
To mute it.
Change the visual a little bit and make it what they thought may be more palpable on screen for people.
Yep.
And I like that this goes against that.
For sure.
And we get Guy Gardner's weird hair color.
Yep. And haircut.
And haircut.
Yeah. Apparently that was something Fillion made sure, like, nope, wait, we have to do this if we're going to do Guy Gardner. I'll hear about it, was basically like the response.
Okay.
I read that recently. It's like, no, people are going to complain. And he's right. I would have. Yeah. I would have led that charge and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Either do it or don't do it, but don't give me Guy Gardner. You know, Guy Gardner always had a haircut for the longest time, and like I always took it as he thought it was cool. Didn't care what other people thought, so that's why he had it.
Yeah, so in the trailer, we do get glimpses of more supporting cast. We see Mr. Terrific in the series. We got like quick teases of them in the teaser, but this time we get a little more shots of each of them. Isabella Merced as Hawk Girl, who does have wings here, right? She does have wings at this point.
Yes.
For sure.
Guy Gardner we mentioned, and I forgot to mention before in the cast is Anthony Carrigan, who was from
Barry.
Barry, yes. That's
he's
what
great.
He's from.
He's fantastic in Barry.
And he is playing Metamorpho.
Yeah.
Rex Mason.
Super excited for that too.
Who we do get one glimpse of, I think, in the full trailer, if I remember right. I think we see one glimpse in like a holding cell of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love Metamorpho. Metamorpho is one of my favorite Silver Age DC characters.
He's great. For
his comics, I mean, so over the top, crazy Silver Aginess from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if we'll be getting that version or if we'll be getting the more like Outsiders version, but we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, it's exciting to get him. No matter for whatever we're getting, I'm excited to get Metamorpho on a big screen. That's cool.
It looks like there's a lot going on in the movie.
Again, that's why I don't think it's linear. I think it's linear, but I think it's in different chunks of time.
Episodic.
Yes, thank you.
No, I think, and that's why I was going with the interview being like, I wonder if the interview is like,
you're absolutely right.
Avenue to go to all these things, because I'm looking at like there's a giant kaiju monster, and then he's fighting like a guy in a suit, and then he's fighting, you know, there's a war he's stopping, and I'm just like, I think that maybe that could be an avenue to kind of get all that stuff in.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, like that trailer and the previous one, the teaser, are both made me kind of go like really try and feel out like what the plot of the film is going to be. And I like that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I like that I'm speculating so much on what the feel of it is, you know?
Right. I'm trying real hard not to.
Yeah.
You know me. I will piece and piece and piece, and I'm trying so hard not to try and piece this together.
You're not watching the trailer like the Zapruder film?
As Zach will know, I will sit and watch a trailer, and have done it with him. Watch trailers over and over again, trying to analyze and put together where stuff goes. But with this, I've enjoyed the trailer, enjoyed the teaser, and I'm trying to push myself away from the table before I get gorged on trying to figure out all these pieces. Yeah, I'm not I don't want to know. I want to walk in as much unknowing as possible. But it's difficult with what's out there with, social media, with toys.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff gets spoiled.
Yeah, when the Funko Pops are coming out and
right, and the McFarlane figures and all that stuff. So
did anybody get a sense too of like watching the trailer that like, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but like that there's familiar there too, like there's stuff we've seen.
Yes.
Before,
absolutely
I'm referring to like, okay, we're getting like a Lex that breaks into the fortress.
Yes,
which is a moment in Superman Returns. A lot of the
Superman 2.
A lot of the that's true. That's a good point. A lot of the like the crowds like throwing stuff at him feels very Dawn of Justice to me.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. And
I will say this: do we have any concerns? Anything was like, ooh, I don't know about that, because I do.
Really,
I've got one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hit us.
I'm a little concerned about Lex Luthor.
Really?
I'm a little worried about the take.
Okay.
I've expressed it before in other episodes. I'm not a big fan of Lex being like, I understand like the we go back to Smallville, Silver AG, I got chemicals splashed in my head and now I'm bald and now I hate you, Superboy.
It's your fault because you tried to blow out the chemical fumes or whatever.
I made some kind of monster out of chemicals trying to cure kryptonite and now I'm bald.
Yeah.
I understand. And I've seen Smallville. It's a fine, fine performances by people in it. There's some great episodes of that show. I don't care for a Luthor that is jealous of Superman. I prefer to think of Lex as like, I don't care where you're from. I'm Lex Luthor. And I worry that there's going to be, because again, like I said, that thing of Superman's, we get a little of it in All-Star, we get a little bit of it in Birthright. The idea of we need to be afraid of Superman because he's a threat from elsewhere. Which, again, that's unfortunately, that's a timeless threat, it seems to be, that gets trotted out in all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping it's more of a nuanced sort of like, no, I have nothing to fear for you because I am who I am. Any thoughts? Again, we haven't got a whole lot of Lex stuff in the trailer or the teaser.
Right. You don't see a lot.
It's hard to say. But
I like Nicholas Hoult a lot.
I'm
do
a big too.
Nicholas Hoult fan.
I enjoy his work as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't given much thought to like the Lex angle in this one yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear what you're saying for sure.
He's a big part. As much as we talk about Superman and Lois and Clark, that was very important, that dynamic. But equally important is they got to get Lex right too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if Nicholas Hoult is, I don't know what he signed for.
I don't think we're getting, God rest his soul, Gene Hackman.
Well, but again, there's a certain area. But again, as much as people want to bag on Hackman for being kind of goofy, and it is, there is a certain amount of Lex just like, I'm the greatest criminal mind, the world's greatest criminal mind of whatever the line is. He's got a certain amount of you're an idiot. I'm me. I'm Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
I've seen you do all these cool things here, man, but at the end of the day, come on. Your brawn versus my brains. It's not even a contest. And I like that about Luthor. I don't like the whole jealous because you're the next step in evolution. How can we ever catch up? I don't like it.
I don't mind it.
Not a fan of that take.
I can eat it, but I'm with you if it's I think the great thing about Lex is that he's very multifaceted and there's a lot of motivation for why he feels the way he does about Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of those motivations can all coexist at the same time.
Okay.
And be in the same take. Jealousy can be an aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it can also be, right, like, I'm Lex and I'm Superman also. I've done everything I can for a normal person to be super as much as possible.
Right.
Right? And then, here comes somebody who can just lift things, right? And and is super by virtue of that, and everybody loves him, and why don't people love me the same way? That could be a jealous thing, but that could also be, like you said, like a why are we trusting this guy? Kind of thing. I think that there's a lot there, and we haven't seen enough for me to make an opinion on Lex, really. Other than the fact I like Nicholas Hoult, and I think
there's some shots.
Gunn being the comic book fan that he is, I just think that I think that most people's preferred take on Lex is probably going to be closer to what we get.
Okay. I mean, there's shots in the teaser I liked a lot more than what we got in the trailer. I was like,
We've said it for previous Lexes, and we've said this word for word, Frank. We've said we don't like a Lex that doesn't see everything coming.
No,
right?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
That much I don't think. I don't think that's going to be the case for here. I think we're very much have a Lex that's going to see a lot of things coming.
Okay. All right.
I can't say that the trailer is telling me that, but it's just my feeling of like what I think Gunn's take is going to be.
Okay. I'm not. It would never cause me to not see it. Obviously, it's just one of those.
And Nicholas Hoult is an actor I think that you would choose to play that take that we're talking about. I think he is somebody that maybe not an obvious choice, but he's somebody who can do. He has the chops to do that.
Yeah. Again, very excited to see it. Whatever we get. So
it's gonna be sad when Crypto gets punched.
Well, yeah,
that's gonna be hard when Crypto gets hurt. That's gonna be a hard one to watch.
Of course, but the fact that we're getting him, and in a way that it's unapologetic, that we're getting him.
Yeah,
it's like no, it's indeed Crypto. There's no messing around. That's a superhuman dog
with a cape.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. I love Crypto.
I also kind of like that Ma Kent has an accent.
Yeah,
right. That she's got like a southern accent. It's another one that's kind of like a duh. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it's what I also like about the Taylor Pruitt Vince. Is that his name? Is that the right? That's his name, right?
Pruitt Taylor Vince.
Pruitt Taylor Vince. I always get that wrong.
Yep.
Great actor. Really great actor. He usually elevates everything that he's in. If he's bad in something, it's because the script was bad. It's not his fault. I'm a huge fan of this guy. When I heard him announce his paw, I'm like, this is terrific. I like the fact that we're going back to more of a kind of a stout Pa Kent. Kind of a Wayne Boring, if you know the artist from the 50s of Superman. Basically like when you really start to dig into the adventures of Superman when he was a boy, Superboy. Ma and Pa Kent were older. They didn't look like they just stepped out of central casting. No John Snyder's, no Kevin Costner's, no Diane Lane's, none of them. They look like people from where they were from. I think that's a good thing too. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I know people are kind of like, that's not what Ma and Pa Kent looks like. I'm like, yeah, it is, depending on where you're choosing from. I don't know the actress, but I did like the line read that she gave about, got your boots ready for you, all that stuff. The whole, my mom, hopefully it's made my costume. I'm hoping we get that too.
Yeah. Neva Howell is her name. Neva Howell is the actress's name who plays Martha Kent.
Thank you. But I'm hoping we get some version of that, whether it's I sewed the blankets together, that bit, or it's, I think Jeff Johns had a take that I also like was the idea of Ma either getting something happen where Ma somehow sees what Krypton fashion or what people call Krypton wore, and she wanted to make sure that Clark had some of his heritage. So that's why the costume looks the way it does.
Yeah, I like that take too.
Which I think is a wonderful take as well. So somewhere between the two, I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
All right, what is your final thoughts? Final thoughts on the trailer?
Oh, I was hoping. I'm curious about Ultraman.
Yeah.
Okay.
What that's about. I'm really curious about that. What that means.
Mm-hmm.
If it means anything other than there's a character called Ultraman. I hoped they were going to go a little more traditional with the engineer's look, but they didn't. That's okay. If you know the engineer from The Authority, not quite what she looks like. It's one of those where I'm like, you could have easily done her actual look and still preserved the actress's face and all that stuff. I get it, but what was my other thing? Yeah, it's by far and away one of the most anticipated movies for me for the year.
Yeah. My final thought, man, what am I trying? I'm excited. There's a lot I really, really enjoy about the trailer. I'm just trying to enjoy the moment. That's my final takeaway. Is it like it's really hard when you have a trailer where you see a Green Lantern and you see Hawkgirl and you see Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho and Frank Grillo is in there again, also, and that's connected to these other things. Like, it's very hard to kind of like look past the things we're getting to the stuff that's coming later. You know, like I kind of feel that happening where people are already like kind of like looking past the Superman movie to whatever's coming after the fact. And like Fantastic Four is kind of getting this too. It's a little bit more of Fantastic Four where it's like you're looking past it to kind of already kind of go like, like how's this going to connect to this other thing coming down the line? And I'm trying to get out of that mindset. I'm just trying to like to just enjoy the ride and enjoy the thing that we're getting.
I know I had a final thought, but this is my actual final thought. Tommy and I were talking about it, and Tommy always likes to bring up the thing of it's a teaser and a trailer. All the stuff that we're seeing is just the stuff that we're being shown, right? Like we're not, you got your eyes on this while Gunn's over here with his other hand doing other things like a magician. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that we have not seen yet. Mm-hmm. I'm more, I'm trying to focus on, okay, it's cool that we saw this stuff. I don't want to know anything else in this movie.
Yeah.
And just try to enjoy what comes next. That's my take.
For mine, I mean, some of the stuff we've touched on where there's a lot in this trailer, like the kaijus and robots and wars and Justice Leagues. And I mean, it's a lot of pieces. And I remember thinking that when development, like the news development was coming out, it seemed like every day for a while, it seemed like James Gunn was announcing some new casting as some character. Isabella Merced is Hawkgirl, Anthony Carrigan is Metamorpho. And you're like, Metamorpho? Like, where's Metamorpho come from in all this?
Right.
Like, how is this happening? And it's a lot. So, I mean, I am curious to see how this juggling act plays out. And again, I'm not doubting it. I'm just genuinely curious to see like where all these pieces are going to land and how they're going to land and how they're going to be juggled throughout to get, one story out of this, of what looks like a lot of different moving pieces.
Right.
It can't be easy. So I'm fascinated to see that, how it all lands.
Yeah. I think one other thing to I guess just call out for me is when we were setting up doing this episode, we were talking about had some conversations about like what projects to talk about and which ones not to talk about. And we kind of settled on like, well, what's the stuff that we've seen stuff of
that they've put out real official stuff for,
right? Like real official stuff. And the thing that I will say that goes against that really quick is the other thing that we know is coming because it's filming now or possibly wrapped is there's a Supergirl movie coming.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of another aspect of this that makes me curious. To kind of we're getting Superman and then apparently a Supergirl movie in pretty close proximity. I don't know what the year is for that, but the fact that one is in active production, in principal photography, and there's set pictures you can find of it is interesting to me. That in this slate we went with two of the Superman characters like pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, currently on Wikipedia, they list the projected release is June 26th, 2026. So basically 1 year later.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So very fast. If that date holds. Yeah.
And that one is starring Millie Alcock as Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, who's probably most known for House of Dragons.
Yeah, right.
The early episodes she was on of House of Dragons season 1.
Yeah, she currently has Sirens on Netflix.
Yeah.
I know that because my wife is watching at the moment.
Okay.
That's why
I forgot what show she was currently on.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, she's in that.
And that's the other one too that we know is at least it's strongly hinted that it's based on a specific piece. It's based on a specific piece of comic book.
Right. It's the working title of the film. Unless something changes again, and James Gunn will let us know if something changes. But the current working title is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which was specifically the name of a comic book miniseries, 8-issue miniseries written by Tom King with artist,
I think it's Bilkis, but
Evely.
Yeah, she's a great artist. It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing about that one that I'm looking forward to it because I liked the book it's based on. It's a take on Supergirl that's different than what we've gotten before.
Yeah.
While at the same time playing off of what Superman represents.
Yeah.
So that's my only thing.
It is interesting. Yeah, I think it's it is a book worth checking out. I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean it is, depending on how close it sticks to that book. I mean that movie's gonna look drastically different than what we're getting for Superman.
Plus, they added a character that's not in the book that's going to be a huge draw for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is Jason Momoa is playing Lobo.
Oh, that's right.
Which a lot of people...
Zach's excited.
I'm excited. I mean, I like the main man in small doses. I've enjoyed Lobo in various things, and the idea that Momoa is finally going to get to play him is I can't wait. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
So.
You always said he was miscast as Aquaman, right, Zach?
Yes. I said that too.
Yeah,
somebody said that.
We always joked.
Somebody always said that
Momoa could show up on set in his clothes, and he looks like Lobo.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's kind of perfect. Yeah. No, that's another reason to be super excited about it. Because you're right. He's not in the book.
Right.
And it is curious to be. You know, what is it all building to?
Right.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
We're in Act 1 of the universe, and Act 1 is a fun plot space to be in movies.
Yeah.
In media, I think. So.
All right. So that brings us up to speed on, as Zach said, Act 1 of the new DCU and what's coming down the pipe for us. Let us know what you're excited about, what you found most surprising in the trailers, what you're looking forward to. You can check out all of our past episodes at our website, letmeknowhowitis.com, as well as anywhere you find podcasts. Just please, if you enjoy the show and feel so inclined, give us a like or follow and leave a review. It really helps us out. Finally, if you would like to suggest a topic, send it our way by email at info@letmeknowhowitis.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, thanks for listening.